Let's talk for a few seconds about what an essay looks like on the page. Okay? Now, we know, like we were just saying a second ago, that the building block for us in the academy, in the academic community, is this thing we call the formal essay. All right? Now, let's use that language really quickly and get that out of the way. The formal essay, F-O-R-M-A-L, the formal essay versus what we will often refer to as simply the creative essay or the non-formal essay or the non-academic essay. Now, to be fair, quite a few of the models that you're reading, okay, in Axelrod Cooper are more creative styled essays. Do you understand what I'm saying when I use that term? Than the kind of essays that we would qualify as an academic essay. All right? Now I'm going to work with this packet I just gave to you kind of backwards. And we're going to go to pages 15 and, I'm sorry, we're going to go to pages 9 through 14. Pages 9 through 14, all right? So take a look at that real quickly. And do you notice that's a copy for you? Actually, it's a copy out of your actual anthology. And I just want to reference that, if I could please, really quickly. You can kind of see, in fact, that it says 770, 2, 3, something like that. Go ahead and open Axelrod Cooper real quickly and see that, okay? And I'd like to point out that starting on page 772 from your hymnal, I actually made this copy for you, though, just so that you would have it. If you open Axelrod Cooper to 772, you'll see the same thing that you're looking at in your packet. Okay, does that make sense? Now, this is an example of a formal essay. Let's go ahead and say it out loud. This is where we're headed. The papers that we're writing want to look increasingly like this paper. Does that make sense, what I just said? So you're probably looking in your packet itself, you know, on those pages 9 through whatever it is, all right? And that's the form of the essay. Now, starting next week, I'll have more to say specifically about this, all right? So let's just kind of go in generalities right now. What is the form of the academic essay? What does it look like? Because it doesn't matter whether you're at school at Northwest College or at Stanford, University of Wyoming or Harvard. All academic communities will use this essay, right, as the way that they test, the way that they expect responses. When they use the word essay, they have a very clear understanding of what that means. Got me? In its broad speaking terms, it all has to do with the paragraph. That's what that sign means, the paragraph. Got me? There is an understanding that your essay will have at least 5 paragraphs, okay? At least 5. And I realize for most of you this is just review, and if it is review, that's a good sign. That means you were well educated already. If what I'm going over now is really kind of confusing, then you need to come in and sit down with me in private so we can make sure you know what's going on. Now, the first thing I want to say about these paragraphs is that an academic paragraph is different from normal paragraphing. An academic paragraph, the assumption is we're talking about 5 to 7 sentences. That's important. You want to write that one down if that's not already in your brain. 5 to 7 sentences, okay? Anything beyond 10 sentences, we start to get a little concerned, and we almost never see academic essay paragraphing below 5 sentences. Okay, so you have at least a sentence. Now let's define what this paragraph is. A paragraph is a unit of sentences, 5 to 7, comprised or collected around a single idea. Okay, that idea is presented in what we would call a topic sentence. For reasons that I'll explain in more detail later, I'm going to recommend that topic sentence be the first sentences of those paragraphs that we will constitute as the middle part of your essay. Typically, essays have 3 parts. Part 1 is some kind of an introduction. Part 2 is what we will call the body of the essay. And that could be any number of paragraphs. And part 3 then is what we will call what? The conclusion, right? The conclusion. So we understand that there are 3 parts to this kind of writing. Okay? Make sense? Okay. Each one of these parts then are comprised of one or more of these academic paragraphs. Okay? Now, in regards to the formulation of these kinds of things, back to your table of contents page on the front page, you want to take a look at page 8. Page 8. And you might even want to circle that one on the cover page or the table of contents page. Now, page 8 of this packet is what we call the skeleton guide. By that we mean that when we are writing an essay that's formal, we try to follow to some degree this guide. Skeleton meaning this is the bare bones of the thing. There will always be then the kind of understanding that we're following this as we are writing the papers that we will qualify as academic formal essays. All right? In regards to the intro, the sentence that matters most to us is the thesis. Now you'll remember in my essay on the academic community, I said that if you get a master's degree, you have to write what we call a thesis. And then if you get a PhD, you have to write what's called a, do you remember, dissertation? I use that term. Now, when I use the term thesis as a master's writing essay, I'm using the term different from this. This thesis is the single sentence of your essay that outlines what the essay will be about. In a typical 5-paragraph essay, this will be the last sentence of the first paragraph. Okay? The body paragraphs then, we have to have at least 3. At least 3. Okay? You can't really qualify an academic essay as something less than 3 body paragraphs. These body paragraphs will have a topic sentence for each one of those. And I will now use the term for these body paragraphs, points of validation. Validation, or to validate, just simply means to prove, okay? So I will abbreviate often this to simply be POVs, points of validation. The way I'm going to validate my thesis, okay? And then finally, your conclusion paragraph, which will summarize your primary thesis and topic sentences, points of validation, okay? Now, as we get into this discussion coming in the weeks to follow, we want to make sure that we have a pretty good understanding of the basic building blocks. That's why page 8 is such a big dog deal from your packet. Page 8 is the skeleton guide. Okay? Now, final comments, because I'm not getting into too much detail here yet. When we get into this validation thing, okay, we have 2 ways to validate our information. We will call it internal validation and external validation. Internal validation is when I'm using a given text that I understand is the central text to be discussed in the writing. In a 1020 class, if I'm writing, for example, on the play Hamlet, and I'm quoting from the play, that we call internal validation. Okay? External validation will come from other sources other than a primary text. Anytime I'm writing a paper and I have to cite that information, that we will call external validation. Okay? In the paper, for example, that you're handing in to me on Thursday, how many references did we require that you have? Those 5 pieces of external validation. Okay? Now, the way that we will cite, C-I-T-E, is done in the form, or explained in the form of what we call a style book. Okay? A style book. And as we get into our conversation about this, we will point out that for our class, the required style book is the Modern Language Association Style Book, MLA. The other really popular style book is what? Does anyone know what it's called? Yeah, the APA style book. What's APA stand for? Does anybody know? American Psychological association. Remember, psychology is spelled with a P, right? The APA style book is a style book that predominantly is used within the academic community, within math science departments, in the social sciences and the applied sciences like psychology and sociology. The MLA style book is used predominantly within the humanities, the English departments, the history departments, and the like. You want to be able to move back and forth between the two. Take a look at Axelrod Cooper really quickly. And when you hold your book up, you will notice that if you go backwards from page 772 real quick, do you notice that on the edge of some of the pages it's purple? Do you see that? And some of the edges of the paper, it's, well, I don't know, what would you call that, orange or something like that? Do you see that? What you're looking at are two different style book introductions. The first one starts on page 749, 750. And that, do you see it at the top of 750? It says MLA style book. Do you see that? And then do you see on page 763 the APA system of documentation, right? Also, there's all kinds of intel online to help you with these two style books as well. And as we get into our conversation, we want to be conversant with these style books. One final comment back to your table of contents. Do you see in your table of contents it says page 9 through 14, sample essay following the MLA in-text citation? Do you see that? You want to circle where it says MLA so that you're reminded that what you're looking at in this sample essay is the MLA style book, not the APA style book. Then, pages 15, 16, a sample works cited page again, the MLA style book. Does everybody see that? Everybody groovy with that? Okay. So, as we kind of finish up this project then, do you have any questions for me?